Today we are continuing the series of videos where I try to help and teach the beginners how to tank Shadowlands dungeons. Today we are learning how to tank Plaguefall. It includes the skips, the full path, it shows you the map of where to go, it explains how to pull the bosses and how to best deal with trash. This is not a mythic dungeon guide, it's just a dungeon guide, but all of the key concepts that I'm telling you about here should be very much applicable to Mythics, Mythics Plus and so on and so forth. So if this is your cup of tea, if you're still learning to tank, maybe new to the role, maybe new to Shadowlands dungeons, hopefully this is very much for you and hopefully you'll enjoy it. Stick around. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, I'm your host Gyro. Today we are learning how to tank Plaguefall. I am projecting the map of the dungeon with all the skips and with everything that you need to know and what I will be talking you through in a minute. If you would like to learn properly and if you take it very seriously, you might want to pause the video, take a screenshot of the map or just take memory notes type of stuff and then go ahead. Please don't worry about the background footage, as I keep saying and as the notes tell you, because we will restart in a second from the beginning, from the very beginning, and then we go point by point by point by point. Now, just to mention, in my personal opinion, Plaguefall is one of the worst dungeons of Shadowlands in terms of how annoying it is to deal with when you are in a pickup group, in a pug. It is full of skips, it is full of rather annoying trash, a lot of random pulls that could be made by the people who are not watching their corners, who go steer a little bit left and right. All the skips are very tight. It's not one of those dungeons where it's kind of easy. It's not Spires of Ascension. So with that being said, let's get started. After arriving at the entrance and moving ahead a little bit, you will arrive at the fork. At this fork you would need to turn right towards the area of mushroom people, not to the left. The right is a little bit easier in my opinion. And once you turned right, continue sticking to the right side of that road or pathway, not to pull more from the middle of that fork or mobs on the other side. Well, quite obvious advice here is that you shouldn't pull too much. Just pull the groups as they are kind of predisposed themselves. Pull those mushroom people. Don't stand in their AoE and slowly keep moving towards the further doorway kind of thing, where you can see the big giant guarding that doorway, and this is where the first boss area is. When you've dealt with the trash with those mushroom people and you're ready to pull the giant, I recommend that you pull the giant and you kind of enter the boss area a little bit and pull this giant inward sort of a little to reduce the chances of your spread out range DPS pulling any adds from the other side still. That happens. I would also run around and collect the slimes. I would not do it all at the same time unless you're super confident in yourself, your gear or your group, and I would just deal with the giant, then I would run around, pull the slimes and make sure that all of them are dead. There are also a couple of extra mobs, they're plague belchers wandering around. They're fairly slow but they're dangerous, they're not that easy to kill. You have to kill at least one. I would normally kill the one who is closer to the exit from the boss area, as you can see just observing the footage and as you would have seen from my map as well. You can kill the second one, as your DPS probably has, I don't know, 50-50 chance of pulling that Plague Belcher during the fight. It happens, Plague Belcher continues roaming around, and Globgrog, the boss, also is not particularly contained, sometimes it moves as well, but it's up to you. I often skip it, I often just deal with one Plague Belcher. Now boss number 1, Globgrog. It is a tank and spank. You do not stand in bad as a tank, you avoid his vomit naturally. If he knocks you back, have your finger on your charge, you just, as a druid, I practically fly right back into his face once he knocks me back and away. The only tricky bit is when he starts summoning the slime. If that slime reaches him, the slime starts healing him. It's not a massive heal, I would say, so it's not a huge issue if 1 or 2 slimes reach him, especially if your DPS is good, but generally it's a good idea to be on the far edge, away from the summoned slime, kind of closer to the exit area from his platform, giving your DPS simply a chance to burn the boss or kill the slimes before they reach him. Sometimes it also helps kiting him a little bit further away from the slime, if you can see that DPS is not keeping up with killing the slimes, and you just need to give them those extra few seconds to kill the slimes or finish off the boss. But it's up to you. You have to look around, and you have to use your kind of situational awareness rather than just hard notes, advice notes from me here. Then once you've done with the boss, you exit the first boss area, and pretty much straight away, as soon as you exit through, let's continue calling it a doorway, there is a major skip here. You need to turn hard left along the wall. The plague bird would be pulled anyway, you can't skip it. It looks like it's napping, but it will wake up when you go past it. You kill it, you go to the very end. You can mark the big dude, patrol dude, or just tell people to try and watch out for that big dude, but you kind of make him visible. You jump over the plague stream, you deal with the minor mobs there, and this is where kind of the area to the next boss, from this point onward, is arguably the trickiest part. Maybe not the trickiest part, but one of the trickiest parts of this dungeon that needs to be done right. You can choose to just simply follow the road and go straight and deal with the popping tentacles as well as the exploding mobs. Exploding mobs, however, are pretty bad actually, and they will slow you down. They will start exploding into this plague AoE, and they will slow you down. If there are several of them, the mini-boss, the named mini-boss standing in the next doorway ahead of you, will continue summoning them until you pull him. So I kind of recommend that you try to breach that gap. You cannot leave tentacles unchecked. You have to tank tentacles, and DPS has to deal with any aggroed tentacle. And then the rest of it is just your usual tanking duties. You make sure that the mobs are on you as much as possible, and you continue whenever you see a chance, whenever you see a window of opportunity. You need to continue pushing towards that doorway boss, mini boss, yes? There is a way to, as soon as you enter that little area, right, where those exploding mobs are, and just before that, where the tentacles are, and just before that doorway mini-boss, there is a way to skip the exploding mobs. You go hard left again. You go hard left, you jump over the plague water. You will aggro a couple of tentacles, yes, but that's just the damage that you have to accept, and the damage ticking on you. You can do it that way, so you don't stay on the middle road. You go left along the rocks. Yes, we used to be able to skip right like that, but now they've added extra tentacles and people generally avoid that. So it's kind of up to you. It's sort of a little bit of a personal preference in tanking. You can choose to go simple way and the hardest way, by the way, or you can do one of these kind of semi-skips. In that case, again, you are kind of trading off dealing with the exploding mobs versus getting environmental damage from the plagued water and dealing with the tentacles. It's generally up to you. But once you killed Virulax Blightweaver, that mini-boss, you will deal with explosions. Hopefully your group is still standing. If not, do the resurrections. It's not very rare as an opportunity to lose a couple of people here to the AoE, because it is really annoying. And then you're ready to engage Dr Ickus, next boss. Dr Ickus is in this big area with the islands. As a tank, you would pull mobs from the island in front of you on the right first. Then, once you dealt with them, you back onto the island that you entered the area from, and then you engage the mobs on the island in front of you on the left. Why in that order? Simply because Dr Ickus jumps between the islands, and this would time your movement better, as long as there are no other problems. Speaking of the problems, if you've done it well and there are no complications, no one pulled extra mobs, no one died and then came back with a patrol, bringing a patrol with them or something like that, you should be well timed to then, once you dealt with the right and then left, then you keep going and you go to the far left island, where by that time boss would jump and you would have a clean slate kind of to deal with him, to start at least the fight with him there. It would be much easier. You will see what I mean once you start doing this, and in the background footage as well it's happening. In our case, or in the case of this recording, some noobs pulled an ad from the area behind us. Probably the path we've skipped before, so we had to deal with them. It slowed us down substantially. Ideally, and very commonly, you don't have to, as long as everyone does their job and as long as you're staying there. As a druid tank, remember that you have Battle Res. Battle Res is a fantastic tool, you need to have it mapped somewhere there on your action bars, which comes very handy far too often in dodgy places like Plaguefall or Necrotic Wake for that matter. When you eventually engaged the boss and basically started the encounter, it's a hectic dash around the islands, where your roar also speeds up your group, and as a good druid tank you can do it fairly frequently, every 2 minutes or something. And even if you can do it once, when he suddenly dashes onto the other side of the area, onto some other island, and people need to hop over those plague lakes, your roar really comes very handy, so use that. Other mobile tanks, such as Warrior or Demon Hunter, would be able to hop around quite nicely here as well, and this encounter is a lot more superior for them if we compare them to some other tanks. The worst tank, without a doubt, to handle this particular encounter with would be Blood Death Knight, because Blood Death Knights are slow, they can't do anything about it, unfortunately. So other than aggroing any adds you've left uncleared on the islands before engaging the boss, which should be only the far right island by now, but it doesn't matter, see how you go, the only dangerous mechanic here to deal with and look out for would be the bomb that Dr. Ickus will spawn periodically. He will shout something out and then spawn a blob that looks like a bomb. It needs to be killed instantly by your DPS, either tell them or mark it with a skull, it's up to you. If you don't deal with it, it explodes into a massive AoE and you really don't want it, my friend. Once you've dealt with the boss with Dr. Ickus, you're ready to exit the area and head over to the next boss, to the Mina or the Mina Venom Blade, however you pronounce that. As you go up the stairs from Dr. Ickus's area, you need to jump off the stairs to the left, at the top of the stairs probably somewhere, to skip a lot of trash once again. I usually mark my path with markers, with the standard UI markers for the pickup group people who do not know where to go. By now, once again, I'd say a lot of people know this skip. It's kind of became almost an official path. And by the way, be aware that Blizzard is hotfixing, patching things all the time right now, so maybe by the time you're watching this video they put like some impossible tentacles in your way, but when I was recording this it was all fine. You get damaged by the plague as you run across the lake, but it's negligible, at least in normal and heroic, I don't know about Mythic Plus, compared to how much time you save with this skip. Here you'll have a stealth mob at the end kind of the hill, will be the stealth mob that needs to be dealt with as you enter Domina Venom Blade's area, and two groups of mobs on the left and on the right. They're kind of annoying. They're actually annoying, they're not trivial. They pop bubbles, they try to protect themselves. It usually takes actually quite a while to deal with them. If your group is really noobish, and you saw it through the behavior, they were pulling extra mobs because they were standing too far left or too far right, they couldn't stick with your path as a tank, you can clear both groups and any extra spider spawns that pop up. In fact, when I'm saying this to you, I am still recording it in the time when it seems to be intermittent. When it's executed really well, I think we can get away with only clearing one group and then pulling the boss into the far corner and never having to deal with the second group. However, I've seen far too often now, and I'm not sure if it's a hotfix or if it's something else, or if it's just one of my people who was feared into or ran into the other group. It's kind of hard to tell for me right now. The second group aggroes as well. So let's just zero in here, kind of in this loosely scripted narrative, that I actually recommend that you clear both groups. Just be safe. Just clear both groups. Now you pull Domina Venom Blade, the third boss of the dungeon. She is a tank and spank, more or less, for you as far as the tanking is concerned. DPS has to be aware a little bit of moving away from the debuff when she tries to shadow step to them and stab them, so they need to kind of run out a little bit. She does, increasing poison damage to you as a tank, shadow steps to ambush random group members, and summons some weak adds once in a while. That's basically what she does. It's otherwise she's pretty straightforward. I never found any issue with her. Other than, once again, if you left some adds on a platform, either through the mechanic, it's hard for me to tell, or because your people ran into those adds, somehow aggro them, that is when it could get hectic. There could be just a bit too much to deal with, and that could be your only threat. Other than that, you know, I think you will be fine as a tank here. There is not all that much to worry about. Now we're approaching the final boss, Margave Stradama. So you would need to be aware and clear the area of the devoted mobs. It's those really small and slow ones, yeah? But you cannot tank them. That's kind of telegraphed to you by how slowly they move. If something moves particularly slowly in World of Warcraft, it means it will hit you very hard, like a truck, if you just stand in front of it. So you kite them instead. You get their attention, you get their aggro, you probably will thrash or swipe them, and then keep moving. You need to kill that final kind of mini-boss, named mini-boss, who is coordinating the devoted. I don't know how to best say what that mob is doing there. You need to, your DPS naturally, preferably ranged, would need to kill this devoted, you kill that boss, and, you know, there will be quite a bit of, you know, movement involved there, but nothing too challenging for you as a tank, as long as you don't just stand there and try to face tank the devoted, because then they'll kill you very fast. And that's when the fight with the boss happens. She pops up in the middle pool. Key mechanic to avoid here is to avoid her tentacles that hit in semicircular or alternating patterns. I think it's random, and it's pretty clearly telegraphed for you with highlighted tentacles. They kind of highlight and then the highlighted one hits, yeah? And that's what you need to dodge. You just need to move out of the way of. Then there is a malignant spawn mob that climbs out of the pool periodically. Malignant, however you want to pronounce it. It needs to be killed ASAP. I sometimes bother getting the attention of that spawn, or my DPS just burns it before I even can. In normal and heroic it doesn't seem to do all that much, but probably gets worse in mythics, so prepare yourself, make sure that you're prepared for that mechanic. And there is also occasional bomb area marked on the ground that someone needs to stand in to soak it up, or there'll be AoE to the group. Other than that, it's well, you have to run around. I would almost dare say it's a fun encounter, and not very hard, and it's pretty funny when somebody gets caught in the tentacles. But that's about it. And this is it, my friends, Plaguefall Dungeon. Hopefully you learned something, hopefully the skips helped you, hopefully my narrative helped you a little bit. In my opinion, like I said, it's probably the second worst dungeon in Shadowlands. I am really not a fan of Necrotic Wake, and I'm really not a fan of Plaguefall. Not maybe because of the bosses, but trash is very annoying, and there are just too many environmental hazards and too many ways to do the wrong thing, especially if you try to skip, and naturally you try to skip when the trash is annoying. That's what we naturally try to do as tanks and as players, and there are just too many things that can go wrong, so to speak. Yeah, maybe that's why I've done Plaguefall one too many times as leveling my alts through Threads of Fate. That's why Necrotic Wake, Plaguefall, they're coming up very frequently, and you have to deal with these dungeons over and over, so probably there is a little bit of just fatigue talking here. So you tell me in the comments down below, how do you like Plaguefall? Ooh, do you like Plaguefall, really? Anyway, I don't judge, but I'm just amazed. Tell me if all of this resonated. Do you use some other skip, some other trick? And as always, like the video, tell YouTube that you enjoy my content, please, so that it can show it to other people. Your vote always counts, as I keep telling my friends. And subscribe for more videos like this. Yes, there seems to be interest in this type of content. I will be reviewing other dungeons, every dungeon ideally, in Shadowlands, as long as there is interest from you guys and girls, and to teach you how to tank. Tanking is a very important role. It's very easy for you to get into groups. It's a very good thing to learn. So hopefully you enjoyed this once again, and I'll be speaking to you in a few days' time. Videos keep being released twice a week. See you later. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.